Alright, piggybacking off of the last tutorial, I want to show you something real fast with the lag in the DNC1 in the MDEX effects, which are just the plugin version of the Triton effects. You won't actually be able to hear this effect, but just notice that we also have that 800 Hz dip. There's obviously other harmonic dips because of the comb filtering, but that's the most noticeable one. So when I turn this on, so this is just to illustrate that even in the plugin version, when the dry wet is on 50/50, we are getting that same 0.6 millisecond lag that we get in the Kronos as well. So it's actually part of the code. It's not like something with the processor in the Kronos. It's just how this compressor works. So anyway, let me go ahead and just remove that from my inserts. Most of the effects, by the way, those MDEX right effects are exactly the same in the Kronos. There are minor differences. Sometimes the settings will be more or less fine in the plugin version, but they're pretty much exactly the same. Anyway, this video is about the stereo compressor in the Kronos, so let's jump over to that. And here we have our regular initialized preset, and I only have the stereo compressor on. First thing while we're here that I want to go over is the just the comb filtering, or how much lag is being introduced by this stereo compressor. And if we have it on Lookahead off, which means that it's just processing the signal as fast as it can, then we're introducing about less than 0.1 milliseconds of lag. And to see and hear what that sounds like, first let's just hear it. This is noise. 50/50. And if we go to Cubase, we're getting a dip at about 8K. And if I turn this off and then jump over to my delay and then put it at 0.1, then look at the spectrum analyzer, we can see that 8K is actually, we would need to go even slower, even slower, less milliseconds. We would need less milliseconds to actually get it up to 8K. So we're probably looking at like, 0.05 milliseconds maybe of lag time. However, if we put the compressor on Lookahead mode and then look at its spectrum, when we turn it on, we can't see any obvious dips. And that's because it's introducing so much lag that unfortunately I had to do it by ear. So I found that 7.6 was the correct lag time. 7.6. And now if I turn that on, turn the compressor off. Actually, first of all, we're listening to the stereo compressor with Lookahead on with dry wet at 50/50. And now we're looking at this delay with dry wet 50/50, of course, because if it was only wet, we'd only be hearing the delay. We wouldn't be hearing the original signal, which we also need in the chain in order to listen to the comb filtering effects. But anyway. Sounds pretty much the exact same to me. If I wanted to illustrate exactly why that's correct, let me change the delay time. The more time in milliseconds that I add, the higher the millisecond numbers go up, then the lower the sound will be. And if I put my milliseconds down, then the higher the sound will be. So listening to that, I guess I'll go up. And then of course that was only changing in the left channel. I could have monitored and centered the channel, which might have made it easier to hear that, but I think it's fine. Yeah, so that's the amount of delay you're getting from the Lookahead. The nice thing about Lookahead, though, even though we are introducing a lot of lag from it, and of course, if we're using Lookahead, we'll always want wet on. We'll probably almost never want parallel compression in that regard, because if we have parallel compression, the attacks are going to be like, if we're parallel compressing like a kick or a snare, it's just not going to be great. I mean, the whole point of parallel compression is to retain dynamics with the original sound. Well, I'm getting a lot of text messages. Anyway, with Lookahead though, I do like using it, of course, all the way wet, because it just makes this compressor process things so sharp. It's like the best compressor. I actually love this compressor. I always use it in peak mode, and I almost never use the soft knee. And yeah, going over these other settings, you can choose left or right. So like if you wanted to process the left and right signal by just a feed with the left channel, then you can do that. And then of course left right mix and left right individual are the exact same as using the DNC one or the stereo dynamic compressor, dyna compressor. This one's also really nice because you can sidechain whatever you want into it with this source signal. And the best way to go about using this, in my opinion, is to have your kick in your drum kits in the global settings. Just make sure that it's got to load the graphics. Just make sure that in the voices you have the effects control bus of your kicks set to one of the effects control buses. And that way you could like sidechain your basses with your kicks and stuff with that, with the effects control bus. The sidechain is always reading whatever is going into here. So if it's reading the envelope of an effects control bus, then this sidechain EQ will act on like the sound of the kick. So that might be good. Like if you really want the bass to respond to like the bass of the kick drum, which is what you're pretty much trying to duck out in your bass anyway, then you could have like a bandpass filter or low pass filter focus on those low notes. I don't know why you'd ever do a band reject filter. It's pretty interesting that they have that, but or if you're not using an effects control bus, then this will just control what the compressor is reacting to from whatever signal you're feeding it with. So like, let's say that you are really trying to get the picking sound of a guitar, then you could do like a high pass filter, and they can make this compressor like really respond to that picking sound and really try to get the dynamics of the picking sound to be the most obvious thing as far as what's changing the volume of the sound. It would be better if I went over a real life example, but I always try to keep these tutorials at 10 minutes, so something like that would warrant its own tutorial. Again, I pretty much have this thing in its initialized state. It does unity gain pretty much right out of the box because it's like a super scientific compressor. It's very sharp and exact. But of course, you can always, make it a little bit more slow and make it mimic, like old vintage style, like slower compressors. Like a LA2A would be like is what like RMS mode would help mimic. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I really want to go over without getting into like the details of like the soft knee or the ratio or the attack and stuff. There are some things that I might want to check out in a different tutorial, but that's pretty much it for this one. And yeah, hopefully it was pretty good, and I'll catch you next time.